Welcome to Sailing Magic Carpet. In this episode, we see how people lived 2,500 years ago. We are at some very old, abandoned things. Aladino fixes the dinghy and shows you how to do the same. We explore a few different crystal clear blue bays along the southern coast of Minorca, and I enjoy some solo early morning exploring. We spent 2 nights in our deserted paradise anchorage, which we found in the previous episode. On the second night there, we decided to hike a bit farther to see some more of the island. We left around 6 p.m. and ended up hiking through golden hour. Wild olive trees grew alongside low stone walls, and the sun made everything look like it was lit by candlelight. We noticed on a map that there were some pretty ancient ruins farther down the trail, so we kept walking. These ruins were from 500 before Common Era, which makes them about 2,500 years old. Since they were all built out of stone, for the most part they're still standing. The remarkable thing for me was that if I was placed on a rocky island and told to survive, I doubt I would have the ingenuity to lift such large stones and build structures capable of surviving for 2,500 years, let alone carve out burial caves, create water storage, make a stove, make room for livestock, and everything else these people had. For 2,500 years ago, I would say that they were actually doing quite well. Although, in my opinion, the warm weather, crystal clear ocean, and abundant olive trees of Minorca doesn't make it the worst place to be a caveman. This type of cave, which was dug into the rocky outcrop near to the settlement, into the cliffs overlooking the sea or into the sides of the banks, is quite abundant in Minorca. They were dug out by the inhabitants of the post-Taliotic dwellings during the Second Iron Age for burial purposes. Ooh, burial cave.
Where someone else sat 2,000 years ago. Pretty impressive. I wonder, or do you like this? Or like that? Or like this? Or like that?
The next day, we pulled up anchor and left our deserted paradise. It's a beautiful bay, but we had more to explore. The southern side of Minorca is filled with gorgeous bays and gorgeous water. We've spent 2 nights here, and each night we've had completely to ourselves, no other boats anchored. It's just beautiful. We've gone snorkeling every day. We've gone hiking around all of these cliffs. There's mountain goats on the cliffs, so sometimes you can hear the mountain goats doing their little meh thing. Yeah, this is a really amazing spot. I'm amazed that more people don't come here. I don't know why that is. We see so many boats going past every day and they never stop here, but lucky for us. So today we are going to just a color that we saw on the map that looks pretty nice. It looks like there's a freshwater stream running into it, which could be quite beautiful. So we're gonna go check it out. It's not very far at all. It's like 4-point-something nautical miles. It'll take us, I don't know, just under an hour to get there. Check this out. We installed a really great alternator on the engine so that when the engine's on, the battery's got a really good charge. How many amp hours in our battery bank? 360. We have a 360 amp hour battery bank, which is quite a lot, but we need it for all of the video editing that we do, and also now that we have a fridge, that's a big draw. So it's good that when we have the engine on, even if it's only boats while we bring the anchor up. It does top those batteries up quite nicely. So we are just slowly cruising by a bunch of the different bays to see which one will work for our anchor. There's all of these little day cruising motorboats anchored here, which makes it a little bit tricky. They will all leave in the evening, so we'll have lots of space, but anchoring right now is a bit of a problem because the bays are actually quite full of these little boats. So we'll see what we can find. So it is definitely a bit busier here than the deserted cove which we left this morning, but it's really beautiful. So I think we're gonna try and anchor and spend some time. We anchored in Cala Lugar. There were more boats there and quite a few people on the beach, but the water was perfect. I relaxed for a bit, I was feeling a bit sick, and Aladino fixed a slow leak we had been experiencing in the floor of our dinghy.
Bailar, bailar, bailar con mi corazón.
These are pretty much the tools you need. So I did cut the 2 patches. Make sure to give them round edges, because then they stick better, and yeah, if you leave them pointy they might get off exactly in that corner. Scissors, a pen to mark things, maybe tape if you don't want to get the rest messy, a little bit of acetone to degrease properly before applying, and then the PVC glue. In some cases you have Hypalon, the material of the inflatable, but in our case it's PVC. I use gloves, and here on the dinghy, on the inflatable floor, I marked the patch. I cleaned it. After soap water, I rinsed with fresh water to get rid of the soap, and then I sanded the area. That is very important. And the same on this side. You can see it pretty well. I marked it first, then I sanded it. After, when I made the patch, I marked it so I know where to put the glue on. The glue, and then I added 6 to 8% of the hardener. That is just by eye. Now I apply this once on both surfaces, so on my patches and on the boat, on the floor, sorry. And then I wait for 15 minutes. After, I repeat the same process, so I apply the glue twice, 2 layers. And after that, with a little heat gun, after waiting another 15 minutes after applying, you heat it up. Heat up the surface a bit to reactivate the glue, and then you put the patch on. Done. Not the most beautiful repair, but I hope it will work. By the way, keep in mind, when I did the repair, I took the air out, and now that the patches are on, I inflated it a tiny bit just by mouth, so it has its original shape, but you could also leave it without. And make sure to wait enough before inflating it properly, even up to 72 hours. We'll see, we can do that, and I hope it works.
The next morning was actually a bit cloudy and cold, but I got up early and went for a solo adventure. I was curious about the freshwater stream which I had seen on the map, which flowed into this bay. I was a bit disappointed when I saw it. It was pretty brown and stagnant. It looked more like an unkempt pond than a river. Ah well, I continued my explorations. It's still really early and it's kind of cold today. There's no sun so far, it's just cloud. But I decided to come to the beach to explore a bit. Aladino always sleeps in really late, so I thought I'm going to go on a solo adventure. And so far I found the freshwater stream, which turns out is kind of dirty, not very nice. And now I'm just exploring some of the cliffs, which are very pretty. I am not exactly sure where I'm walking to, but there seems to be a very well laid out footpath through the woods, so I'm going to see where it goes. So hiking is actually a really popular thing in Minorca. We've seen a lot of people hiking around the island because there's a trail which apparently circumnavigates, like goes around the entire island. It's only 180 kilometers, which I mean, only. That takes a while to hike, but for an entire island, that's not too much. So that would be a really nice trail to do one day. Of course, we're here with the boat, so I don't think that's really in our plans, but you can tell just from looking at the trail that a lot of people do hike it. There's footprints everywhere, and it's a very well-worn trail. I think it's harder to get an idea of it right now because it's cloudy and that kind of casts everything in a less flattering light. But so far from what I've seen of Minorca and even the small amount of hiking that Aladino and I have done, this is my Mediterranean dreamland. Like when I was younger, I had all these dreams of coming to the Mediterranean and sailing and finding the love of my life, all of which have come true, by the way. But one thing which always featured in my imagination was like sun-baked dirt and golden hour light and wild olive trees and low stone walls overlooking azure blue sea. And that is Minorca. Like Minorca is lifted directly out of my teenage little imagination dreamland about what the Mediterranean is. It's a spectacular place and made all the more spectacular by the fact that it's not that crowded. Like Sardinia was beautiful and I loved it, but the amount of people, the amount of motorboats, I think really detracted a little bit from it. And here it is possible to have paradise bays to yourself, and it is possible to sunbathe naked on the beach and nobody's going to come and bother you. So I think of all the places I've been in the Mediterranean so far, Minorca tops the list. Later in the day, I convinced Aladino to come hiking with me. We hiked along the coast, arriving at gorgeous views overlooking the bays. Minorca is amazing. It is the Mediterranean paradise of my imagination. Being here, surrounded by the things that I always dreamed about, I am also struck by the possibility to make dreams become reality. When you really know what you want, when you really care about what you want, with every ounce of your willpower, there is no option but to just keep working and trying until you get there. Find people who are living your dream, make them your friends, listen to their stories, ask their advice, slowly begin to work on your own dream, and work is what it is. What you don't see from these adventures we're having is the 3,000 hours Aladino spent sweating away in the boatyard after work, sanding and painting until midnight, and then getting up again at 6 the next morning to do the same. You don't see the time we spent together eating rice and pasta and beans every night to save money for this adventure. And the work doesn't end. Aladino and I will be working in Switzerland all winter, living in a trailer without insulation in the freezing cold, just so we can put away enough money to continue doing this. We made the choice to live a life of extremes, extreme joy and extreme hard work, rather than living a life of medium effort 100% of the time. For us, this works, but only because we have that dream, only because we have something to look forward to, only because we have something we love.
Show us our summer hit 2019.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn the music up, start to jive. We're gonna have a party filled with swinging tunes. Laser lights, confetti balloons. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Turn the music up louder again. We're gonna have a dance floor and more in store. Da-da. And as we do at the end of every episode, I want to extend a special round of thanks to all of our Patreons, and especially to James F. Gardner, Scott Grometer, Pat Mornan, Lloyd Fellbaum, and John Dodd. Thank you so much, you guys.